Question 1. In a high-stakes environment where multiple challenges intersect, a pharmaceutical company dominates the market for a life-saving drug. The company engages in a pay-for-delay agreement with a generic manufacturer, delaying the introduction of a cheaper alternative. The Federal Trade Commission (FTC) investigates, alleging a violation of antitrust laws. Which of the following is the most accurate legal assessment of this case? A. Pay-for-delay agreements are always per illegal under antitrust laws. B. Pay-for-delay agreements are generally considered anti-competitive, but may be allowed if the brand name company proves significant pro-competitive justifications. C. The FTC has no authority to challenge pay-for-delay agreements under antitrust laws. D. Pay-for-delay agreements are legal if the generic manufacturer voluntarily agrees to the deal. Answer: B. Pay-for-delay agreements are generally considered anti-competitive, but may be allowed if the brand name company proves significant pro-competitive justifications. Explanation: the legality of pay-for-delay agreements falls under antitrust scrutiny, particularly under the Sherman Act and the Federal Trade Commission Act. In FTC v. Actavis Inc. 2013, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that these agreements are not per illegal but should be analyzed under the rule of reason approach. This means courts must assess whether the agreement has anti-competitive effects outweighing any pro-competitive justifications. YA is incorrect. Pay-for-delay agreements are not always per illegal. Courts assess them under the rule of reason, meaning that each case is evaluated based on its market effects. YC incorrect. The FTC has clear authority under the Federal Trade Commission Act and the Sherman Act to challenge agreements that reduce competition. YD is incorrect. Even if a generic manufacturer voluntarily enters into the agreement, the deal can still be anti-competitive and unlawful if it harms consumers by keeping prices high. The key legal takeaway is that while pay-for-delay agreements are presumptively anti-competitive, a pharmaceutical company may attempt to justify them by proving significant pro-competitive benefits, such as encouraging innovation or avoiding unnecessary litigation. However, courts often find such agreements harmful to market competition, leading to higher drug prices and reduced access to affordable medication. Question 2. During an emergency response where multiple areas are impacted, a dominant digital platform implements an algorithmic pricing strategy that automatically adjusts prices based on competitor behavior. However, multiple companies in the industry use similar pricing algorithms, leading to higher prices across the market. The Department of Justice Dutch investigates whether this constitutes illegal collusion under antitrust laws. Following is the best assessment of the case. A. Algorithmic pricing that results in higher prices is per illegal under the Sherman Act. B. Collusion can be established only if there is direct communication or an explicit agreement between competitors. C. The Dutch may argue that algorithmic pricing creates a form of tacit collusion even without explicit agreements. D. The use of algorithms for pricing is always legal as long as each company operates independently. Answer: C. The Dutch may argue that algorithmic pricing creates a form of tacit collusion even without explicit agreements. Explanation: under Section 1 of the Sherman Act, illegal collusion traditionally requires some form of agreement between competitors. However, courts have increasingly recognized that tacit collusion, where firms achieve anti-competitive results without direct communication, can still violate antitrust laws, especially in the context of algorithmic pricing. YA is incorrect. Not all algorithmic pricing strategies are per illegal. Courts typically apply the rule of reason, examining whether the practice has legitimate business justification or leads to competitive harm. B is incorrect. Direct communication or explicit agreements are not always necessary to prove collusion. Courts can consider circumstantial evidence, particularly in digital markets where algorithms align competitors' behavior. D is incorrect. Algorithmic pricing is not automatically legal just because companies act independently. If the algorithms lead to sustained price increases without competition, regulators may consider it violation of antitrust laws. This case falls under emerging antitrust concerns in digital markets where companies rely on machine learning and AI to set prices. While there may not be traditional agreement, if algorithms effectively facilitate collusion, the Dutch and FTC may take action under the Sherman Act and Federal Commission Act. Question 3. When implementing new protocols in a shared environment, a large corporation with significant market power imposes exclusive dealing contracts on its suppliers, preventing them from working with rival firms. A competitor files an antitrust lawsuit alleging that these contracts violate Section 3 of the Clayton Act. What is the best legal argument for assessing the case? A. Exclusive dealing arrangements are always illegal under the Clayton Act. B. Exclusive dealing is legal unless the plaintiff can prove it significantly harms competition in the relevant market. C. The Clayton Act does not regulate exclusive dealing contracts, only price discrimination. D. The lawsuit is invalid unless the plaintiff can prove that the defendant explicitly intended to create a monopoly. Answer: B. Exclusive dealing is legal unless the plaintiff can prove it significantly harms competition in the relevant market. Explanation: exclusive dealing contracts where suppliers or distributors are restricted from working with competitors are regulated under Section 3 of the Clayton Act. However, courts do not automatically consider them illegal. Instead, they analyze whether these contracts substantially lessen competition or tend to create monopoly. YA is incorrect. Exclusive dealing is not illegal. Courts use the rule of reason to determine whether these contracts foreclose substantial portion of the market and harm competition. YC is incorrect. While the Clayton Act does regulate price discrimination under the Robinson-Patman Act, it also prohibits exclusive dealing agreements that harm competition. YD is incorrect. Intent to create monopoly is necessary to establish violation. The law focuses on the effects of the exclusive dealing arrangement rather than the company's intent. The Supreme Court and lower courts analyze exclusive dealing claims using market foreclosure analysis, determining whether the defendant's contracts restrict access to key suppliers and harm consumer choice. If the contracts lock competitors out of the market, the company may face antitrust liability under both the Clayton and Section 2 of the Sherman Act. Monopolization. Question 4. During an emergency response where multiple areas are impacted, a cybersecurity firm detects a widespread data breach affecting several corporate clients. Given the urgency, what immediate steps should the firm take to mitigate damage and restore security? A. Isolate affected systems, notify stakeholders, conduct forensic analysis, and implement security patches. B. Wait for further evidence before taking action to avoid false alarms. C. Downplay the breach to prevent reputational damage. D. Shut down all systems permanently to eliminate any risks. Answer: A. Isolate affected systems, notify stakeholders, conduct forensic analysis, and implement security patches. Explanation: in a cybersecurity emergency, swift action is critical to contain damage. Isolating affected systems prevents further spread, while notifying stakeholders maintains transparency and trust. Conducting a forensic analysis helps identify the source and extent of the breach, and implementing security patches ensures vulnerabilities are addressed to prevent future incidents. Question 5. In a high-stakes environment where multiple challenges must be addressed simultaneously, a hospital is struggling with both a staffing shortage and increased patient intake. What is the most effective strategy to maintain patient care quality? A. Implement an optimized shift scheduling system, cross-train staff, and introduce telemedicine where applicable. B. Reduce patient intake to match available staff capacity. C. Increase patient wait times without changing staffing levels. D. Hire more staff immediately even if they lack proper qualifications. Answer: A. Implement an optimized shift scheduling system, cross-train staff, and introduce telemedicine where applicable. Explanation: when facing staff shortages and high patient demand, hospitals must maximize existing resources efficiently. Optimized shift scheduling ensures that available personnel are allocated based on demand patterns, while cross-training staff allows greater flexibility in covering critical tasks. Telemedicine can help reduce non-urgent in-person visits, allowing staff to focus on high-priority cases. Question 6. During a major transformation where existing methods no longer meet organizational goals, a global manufacturing firm decides to shift from traditional production processes to automation. What is the best way to ensure a smooth transition? A. Provide employees with upskilling opportunities, implement gradual automation, and conduct continuous performance evaluations. B. Replace all existing workers with automated systems immediately. C. Delay automation until external competitors force the transition. D. Reduce production capacity during the transition period without a long-term strategy. Answer: A. Provide employees with upskilling opportunities, implement gradual automation, and conduct continuous performance evaluations. Explanation: automation adoption should be strategic and gradual to minimize disruptions. Offering upskilling programs allows existing employees to adapt to new roles, ensuring retention of expertise. A phased implementation prevents sudden operational breakdowns, while continuous performance evaluations help fine-tune the efficiency of automated systems. Question 7. In a multi-location scenario where consistency requirements must be upheld, a restaurant chain finds that food preparation times and quality vary significantly across its branches. What is the best approach to resolve this inconsistency? A. Standardized training programs, conduct routine quality audits, and implement performance monitoring tools. B. Allow each branch to continue using its unique preparation methods. C. Lower food quality standards to improve preparation speed. D. Stop monitoring branch performance since customer complaints are still within acceptable limits. Answer: A. Standardized training programs, conduct routine quality audits, and implement performance monitoring tools. Explanation: for restaurant chains, brand consistency is key to maintaining customer trust. Standardized training programs ensure that all staff follow the same procedures, while quality audits help identify areas for improvement. Performance monitoring tools allow real-time tracking of food preparation times and quality. Management maintain uniform service standards across all locations. Question 8. When improving a process that shows unexpected results, a software development team finds that a recently deployed update has caused performance issues in their cloud-based application. What is the best course of action? A. Roll back the update, conduct root cause analysis, and implement fixes before redeployment. B. Ignore the performance issues since the update introduced important new features. C. Release another update immediately without testing to try to fix the problem. D. Permanently remove the new features and stop further updates. Answer: A. Roll back the update, conduct root cause analysis, and implement fixes before redeployment. Explanation: in software development, unexpected performance issues require careful debugging and resolution. Rolling back the update prevents further damage, while a root cause analysis identifies the source of the problem. Only after implementing and testing fixes should the update be redeployed, ensuring stability and minimal disruption for users. Question 9. While managing a hybrid approach where timing issues create operational delays, a supply chain team struggles with balancing just-in-time inventory management and unexpected demand surges. What is the best approach to improve efficiency? A. Use predictive analytics to forecast demand, maintain buffer stock for critical items, and enhance supplier collaboration. B. Stick to just-in-time inventory without adjustments. C. Increase inventory across all categories, even if demand is uncertain. D. Wait until supply chain delays resolve naturally. Answer: A. Use predictive analytics to forecast demand, maintain buffer stock for critical items, and enhance supplier collaboration. Explanation: in supply chain management, balancing inventory levels is key. Predictive analytics can anticipate demand surges, helping the company adjust stock levels accordingly. Keeping a buffer stock for critical items prevents shortages, while supplier collaboration improves response times to fluctuations. Question 10. In a situation where formal requirements conflict with practical implementation, a regulatory agency enforces new compliance rules that conflict with real-world operational constraints in the healthcare sector. How should an organization adapt? A. Engage in discussions with regulators, implement necessary changes, and seek phased compliance adjustments. B. Fully ignore the new compliance requirements. C. Immediately adopt the new regulations without considering their impact. D. Shut down affected operations until a final decision is reached. Answer: A. Engage in discussions with regulators, implement necessary changes, and seek phased compliance adjustments. Explanation: regulatory changes often create operational challenges. The best approach is to engage with regulators to discuss practical constraints while gradually implementing necessary changes. Seeking phased compliance adjustments ensures that the organization remains compliant without compromising operational stability. Question 11. In a high-stakes environment where multiple challenges must be addressed simultaneously, a multinational corporation faces allegations that its supply chain contracts with overseas manufacturers involve forced labor. The company argues that it only engages with certified suppliers and that any labor violations are the responsibility of subcontractors. Regulators and human rights organizations investigate whether the corporation is liable. Global labor laws and corporate social responsibility (CSR) standards. What are the key legal and ethical considerations in determining the company's accountability? A. Whether the company directly employs the workers found in forced labor conditions. B. Whether the company has implemented robust due diligence mechanisms to prevent and mitigate human rights violations in its supply chain. C. Whether consumers continue to purchase products from the company despite the allegations. D. Whether the corporation's legal team can negotiate settlements with regulatory agencies. Answer B. Whether the company has implemented robust due diligence mechanisms to prevent and mitigate human rights violations in its supply chain. Explanation. Even if the company does not directly employ workers under forced labor conditions, it can still be held liable under international labor laws and CSR standards if it fails to conduct proper due diligence in its supply chain. Many laws, such as the US ICA Forced Labor Prevention Act and the UK Modern Slavery Act, require corporations to actively monitor and mitigate risks of forced labor in their supply chains. Question 12. While analyzing the root causes of sequential problems in a national healthcare system, policymakers discover that insurance companies systematically deny coverage for essential treatments due to algorithmic decision-making models. Patients and advocacy groups file lawsuits arguing that the denials violate federal healthcare laws. What key legal and regulatory frameworks would be most relevant in assessing whether these practices are unlawful? A. The Sherman Act and state-level consumer protection laws regarding competitive fairness. B. The Affordable Care Act, ACA, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, ERISA, and the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. C. The insurance company's internal financial reports and shareholder earnings. D. The existence of similar denials by competing insurance companies. Answer B. The Affordable Care Act, ACA, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, ERISA, and the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. Explanation. The ACA protects against discriminatory coverage denials. ERISA regulates employer-provided health insurance, and the ADA prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities. If an AI-driven denial system disproportionately affects certain groups or violates federal protections, companies could face significant legal consequences. Question 13. In a situation where formal requirements conflict with operational needs, a government agency mandates the use of specific security protocols for all cloud-based services. However, professionals within the agency argue that the new protocols reduce efficiency and create bottlenecks in data processing. What steps should the agency take to balance security compliance with operational effectiveness? A. Strictly enforce the protocols without modification to ensure compliance. B. Conduct a risk-based assessment and adjust security protocols where feasible to improve efficiency while maintaining protection. C. Ignore professionals' concerns and implement additional restrictions. D. Allow individual departments to bypass security requirements as needed. Answer B. Conduct a risk-based assessment and adjust security protocols where feasible to improve efficiency while maintaining protection. Explanation. A risk-based approach helps balance compliance with operational needs. Overly rigid security requirements can hinder efficiency, while too much flexibility can compromise security. Agencies should engage in stakeholder discussions and technology audits to optimize security while maintaining workflow efficiency. Question 14. During an emergency response where multiple areas are impacted by a cyber attack, a financial institution faces a coordinated ransomware attack that locks critical customer accounts. Executives debate whether to pay the ransom or rely on backup systems. What are the primary factors they should consider in making this decision? A. The cost of the ransom compared to the cost of restoring systems from backups. B. Whether paying the ransom will ensure the customer data remains uncompromised. C. The legal and ethical implications of funding criminal organizations through ransom payments. D. All of the above. Answer D. All of the above. Explanation. Organizations must weigh financial security and ethical concerns. Paying a ransom may encourage future attacks, and in some jurisdictions it may be illegal if it funds terrorist or criminal organizations. Backup recovery should always be a first option, but if critical data is at risk, alternative solutions must be assessed. Question 15. When scaling up operations that experience significant bottlenecks, a logistics company introduces AI-driven warehouse automation. However, employees raise concerns about job security, and regulators question whether the automation leads to unfair labor practices. What best practices should the company follow to implement automation ethically and legally? A. Ensure compliance with labor laws, provide retraining programs, and engage in transparent communication with employees. B. Implement automation without notifying employees to avoid unnecessary resistance. C. Replace human workers with automation as quickly as possible to increase efficiency. D. Rely on AI to handle all decision-making without human oversight. Answer A. Ensure compliance with labor laws, provide retraining programs, and engage in transparent communication with employees. Explanation. Ethical automation requires compliance with labor laws, workforce retraining, and employee engagement to ensure a responsible transition. Failing to do so can lead to legal challenges and reputational damage. Question 16. While examining inconsistencies across various units of a global retail chain, analysts find that product pricing varies significantly between regions, leading to accusations of discriminatory pricing. What legal and ethical principles should guide the company's pricing strategy? A. Pricing should be adjusted based on local market conditions but without violating consumer protection laws. B. Prices should be uniform worldwide, regardless of local economic conditions. C. The company should avoid adjusting prices even if costs differ by region. D. Consumers should not be informed about pricing variations. Answer A. Pricing should be adjusted based on local market conditions but without violating consumer protection laws. Explanation. Pricing strategies must balance market dynamics and legal compliance. Price discrimination can be legal if it is based on legitimate cost factors, but it should not violate consumer protection laws or anti-discrimination policies. Question 17. During a major transformation where existing methods are phased out, a software company shifts from a one-time licensing model to a subscription-based service. Customers protest, claiming it forces them into continuous payments for software they previously owned outright. What factors should the company consider to ensure a smooth transition? A. Offering legacy customers flexible transition options or discounts. B. Immediately discontinuing previous versions without warning. C. Refusing to provide customer support for older versions. D. Implementing price increases without justification. Answer A. Offering legacy customers flexible transition options or discounts. Explanation. Gradual transitions with incentives help maintain customer loyalty. A sudden shift without clear benefits can lead to backlash and loss of trust. Question 18. In an environment where different components must interact seamlessly, a multinational airline integrates AI-driven scheduling to optimize flight operations. However, pilots and air traffic controllers report inconsistencies that lead to increased delays. How should the airline address these concerns while maintaining efficiency? A. Disable AI-driven scheduling and revert to manual operations. B. Conduct system audits, gather stakeholder feedback, and implement AI refinements. C. Ignore feedback since AI optimizations are statistically beneficial. D. Force compliance by penalizing employees who do not follow AI-generated schedules. Answer B. Conduct system audits, gather stakeholder feedback, and implement AI refinements. Explanation. AI-driven systems must be continuously evaluated and refined based on real-world feedback. Engaging pilots and controllers ensures that human expertise complements AI optimization, leading to better efficiency and safety. Question 19. When implementing backup procedures across various departments, a large financial institution discovers discrepancies in data recovery times, with some regions restoring data in minutes while others take days. What are the best steps to ensure consistent disaster recovery? A. Standardize recovery protocols, conduct routine testing, and allocate necessary infrastructure improvements. B. Allow each department to determine its own recovery approach. C. Prioritize faster recovery only in high-revenue departments. D. Reduce redundancy to save costs even if recovery times vary. Answer A. Standardize recovery protocols, conduct routine testing, and allocate necessary infrastructure improvements. Explanation. Consistent disaster recovery requires uniform protocols, regular testing, and infrastructure investments. Without these, recovery delays jeopardize financial operations and increase regulatory risks. Question 20. While managing a hybrid approach where timing issues affect performance, an e-commerce company struggles with delayed order fulfillment due to supply chain inefficiencies. How can the company optimize its operations while balancing cost and speed? A. Invest in real-time tracking, diversify supplier networks, and optimize inventory forecasting. B. Maintain the current approach and hope for natural improvements over time. C. Shift entirely to the most expensive, fastest suppliers. D. Reduce customer service staffing to compensate for supply chain costs. Answer A. Invest in real-time tracking, diversify supply networks, and optimize inventory forecasting. Explanation. A hybrid supply chain must incorporate data-driven decision-making, supply diversification, and proactive inventory management to prevent delays and cost spikes. Question 21. In a situation where resource allocation becomes increasingly complex, a hospital network must decide how to distribute a limited supply of critical medication during a national shortage. What ethical and operational principles should guide this decision? A. Prioritize patients with the highest chance of survival and ensure transparency in distribution policies. B. Allocate medication randomly to avoid bias. C. Sell medication at a premium to those willing to pay more. D. Distribute on a first come, first served basis, regardless of medical urgency. Answer A. Prioritize patients with the highest chance of survival and ensure transparency in distribution policies. Explanation. Medical ethics dictate that scarce resources should be allocated based on need and survival likelihood, with clear policies to ensure fairness and public trust. Question 22. During the introduction of new methods where coordination is critical, a global consulting firm transitions to a fully remote work model. However, misaligned schedules and inconsistent communication reduce productivity. What best practices should the firm implement? A. Establish core working hours, use collaboration tools, and promote structured communication protocols. B. Allow employees to work completely independently without coordination. C. Remove performance tracking to reduce pressure. D. Eliminate team meetings to minimize disruptions. Answer A. Establish core working hours, use collaboration tools, and promote structured communication protocols. Explanation. Effective remote work requires structured communication, aligned schedules, and reliable collaboration tools to maintain efficiency and team cohesion. Question 23. In a multi-location scenario where consistency requirements are high, a restaurant chain faces criticism for varying food quality across its branches. How should management address this issue while maintaining operational flexibility? A. Standardize key recipes and quality checks while allowing minor local adaptations. B. Require all locations to use identical suppliers, regardless of regional differences. C. Disregard customer feedback since business is still profitable. D. Reduce staff training to save costs. Answer A. Standardize key recipes and quality checks while allowing minor local adaptations. Explanation. A balanced approach ensures consistent quality while allowing flexibility for local preferences, improving customer satisfaction and operational efficiency. Question 24. While updating traditional approaches where interconnections exist across departments, a manufacturing company transitions from legacy systems to an integrated digital platform. However, older employees resist the change, citing usability concerns. What strategies should leadership implement to facilitate adoption? A. Provide tailored training, gradual implementation, and support resources. B. Force all employees to switch immediately, regardless of concerns. C. Ignore resistance and assume employees will adjust on their own. D. Remove older employees from critical roles to accelerate transition. Answer A. Provide tailored training, gradual implementation, and support resources. Explanation. Gradual transitions, structured training, and user support help employees adapt to technological changes, ensuring higher engagement and success. Question 25. During a seamless transition where continuity must be ensured, a telecommunications company upgrades its infrastructure, requiring temporary service disruptions. How can it minimize negative customer impact? A. Provide advanced notifications, alternative service options, and compensation for affected customers. B. Conduct upgrades without informing customers. C. Assume customers will tolerate disruptions without issue. D. Delay upgrades indefinitely to avoid complaints. Answer A. Provide advanced notifications, alternative service options, and compensation for affected customers. Explanation. Transparent communication, alternative solutions, and customer compensation help maintain trust and minimize dissatisfaction during critical service transitions. Question 26. In a high-stakes environment where regulatory compliance is crucial, a fintech startup launches a new digital payment system but faces scrutiny over data privacy concerns. What measures should the company implement to ensure compliance? A. Implement encryption, conduct third-party audits, and comply with industry regulations. B. Avoid regulatory review and focus on rapid expansion. C. Collect all user data without clear policies. D. Assume compliance requirements do not apply to startups. Answer: A. Implement encryption, conduct third-party audits, and comply with industry regulations. Explanation: strong data protection protocols, external audits, and adherence to legal standards help fintech companies avoid legal penalties and build trust. Question 27. When developing a solution that must address opposing needs, a city government plans a transportation policy that balances environmental concerns with economic growth. How can policymakers achieve a viable compromise? A. Conduct public consultations, integrate sustainable technology, and support economic incentives. B. Prioritize only environmental concerns, regardless of business impact. C. Disregard public input and enforce strict regulations. D. Allow unchecked urban expansion without sustainability measures. Answer: A. Conduct public consultations, integrate sustainable technology, and support economic incentives. Explanation: a balanced approach ensures economic viability while promoting sustainability, incorporating stakeholder input and innovative solutions. Question 28. In a scenario where efficiency decreases across multiple departments, a large logistics company experiences delays due to inconsistent communication between warehouse teams and transportation coordinators. What is the best approach to improve operational efficiency? A. Implement a centralized tracking system, establish standardized workflows, and improve cross-departmental communication. B. Encourage teams to work independently and resolve issues as they arise. C. Reduce staff in the affected departments to cut costs. D. Ignore inefficiencies since operations are still functional. Answer: A. Implement a centralized tracking system, establish standardized workflows, and improve cross-departmental communication. Explanation: operational inefficiencies in logistics often result from disorganized communication and lack of synchronization between key teams. By implementing a centralized tracking system, the company ensures real-time visibility into operations, allowing for proactive issue resolution. Standardized workflows, confusion, and cross-departmental communication improvements help align teams for smoother operations. Question 29. While examining inconsistencies across various units, a multinational retail company notices that customer satisfaction scores vary significantly between store locations, even though all branches follow the same corporate policies. What steps should management take to address this issue? A. Conduct localized assessments, provide targeted training, and allow minor procedural flexibility based on customer demographics. B. Enforce identical policies with no exceptions, regardless of regional differences. C. Disregard the differences since overall company performance remains stable. D. Reduce customer service investments to lower operational costs. Answer: A. Conduct localized assessments, provide targeted training, and allow minor procedural flexibility based on customer demographics. Explanation: customer expectations and preferences vary by region even within the same company. Conducting localized assessments helps identify specific pain points at underperforming locations. Targeted training ensures that employees deliver consistent service while allowing minor procedural flexibility, helps meet local customer expectations without compromising brand identity. Question 30. During an emergency response where multiple areas are impacted, a cybersecurity firm detects a widespread data breach affecting several corporate clients. Given the urgency, what immediate steps should the firm take to mitigate damage and restore security? A. Isolate affected systems, notify stakeholders, conduct forensic analysis, and implement security patches. B. Wait for further evidence before taking action to avoid false alarms. C. Downplay the breach to prevent reputational damage. D. Shut down all systems permanently to eliminate any risks. Answer: A. Isolate affected systems, notify stakeholders, conduct forensic analysis, and implement security patches. Explanation: in a cybersecurity emergency, swift action is critical to contain damage. Isolating affected systems prevents further spread, while notifying stakeholders maintains transparency and trust. Conducting a forensic analysis helps identify the source and extent of the breach, and implementing security patches ensures vulnerabilities are addressed to prevent future incidents.